All right. So this is how to get a random response into that second text box. So this is my page right here, and I got two text boxes and a button. And what I want to do is I have here's my code thus far. I have an array of responses. Not sure why there's a gap there, but um, and so yeah, so this is a global variable that's a list. That's technically called an array. And then I've done this. I have three local variables. I have rand, that's going to be my random number. I've got a user queue. That's going to be that's so that I get access to the text box, the question text box. I have a second local variable that is my answer. So I now have access to that by way of these two local variables. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to be able to get that random number. And so I'll get a random number. And so that's going to be rand equals math, capital M, random, open and close parentheses. I'm going to multiply that by the number of options. That's what we covered previously. I know that there are 10 elements here, and so I could just put in 10 and it all works. But I don't know if later on, maybe I'm going to take some of these answers out. Maybe it's going to be, I'm going to put some other ones in. So that could fluctuate. So a better idea than just putting in a solid number is to do the length of that list. So that's going to be answers dot length. And um, that is going to give me a random number that is going to be between. So sorry about that. So it's going to be math.random times answers.length. Notice that there's no parentheses after that. That's because this is a variable that's part of this array. So let's just see what that gets us. I'm going to alert rand at this point, and if I save that and refresh, I get this number, and again, I've got a number to the left of the decimal, and then all of this extra stuff. This is the number to the left of the decimal. That's actually the number that I want. All right, I don't want all of this extra stuff in here. So I actually have 11. I'm assuming 11 different possible solutions. So if you count them up, I think there's 11 there. So in addition to doing math.random times the length, if there were 10, I'm just moving that decimal point over. It is basically what I'm doing here. I'll put this comment in. I'm multiplying by math.random times the number of options. Right, that you want. That's the trick, or that's the way that we get that. I am left with that decimal, so I got to get rid of that. So I'm going to now add that to a way of doing that. And there are a couple of different ways that I can do it. I got to reassign rand to, and this is a different method that's going to be math.floor. All right, and what am I flooring? I'm flooring that variable rand. All right, so this looks a little peculiar in that I've got my variable as a parameter, but that's what I want to cut off. All right, so in other words, if you think about it, math.floor open and close parentheses, it doesn't know what to floor. All right, and what the floor does is that's going to truncate the decimal. All right, chops off the decimal. Right, it actually returns the nearest integer that is less than the parameters, what it's doing. I also got to do this. I also have to store it back in rand. So this is going to chop it off. It's this rand equals, that's what reassigns that value to the correct number. A lot of students do this. They just do Matplotlib thinking that, well, it's chopping off the decimal, but I'm not assigning that anywhere. I do want to make sure that I do that by doing that assign. And now, if I save and refresh that, I'm going to get a whole number. All right, so there's 5, and here is 10, and there's 4, and you get the general idea. So that seems like it's working. Okay, so I could also alert what that specific answer is. So that'd be answers at rand. That's going to be, it's now going to go to my array and acquire that given element. So instead of a number being output, it should be a statement, an answer to a question. The future's cloudy, of course. Future's cloudy again. So I don't want to alert it. I want it to show up in this text box here, my answer text box, which I've stored as a variable up here, right? So my answer is that answer text box. So I want to assign that value. So that's going to be my answer. That's spelled right. Looks like it. Dot value. All right. So the dot value is, so I've got all of the different properties of that text box. The dot value is the one that is the contents of that. I'm going to assign that the text to this element of my array. Save and refresh this, and now it shows up in the text box. All right, that's pretty cool. That's basically it. That's the nuts and we're down to the crux. But I'm going to want to do a couple of other things to that. I want to make sure that the users typed a question. So if there's nothing in this text box, I click and then my soothsayer here is still coming up with answers. You got to ask a question first, at least, right? So I'm going to do an if statement. And how do I access that? Well, here is my user, the question text box. All right, get element by ID question. That's the first text box. So I'm going to say if user q dot value, and I can that's the contents of that box. I want to know, well, if there's nothing in it, that means that it has a length. It has how many characters there are. If that length is equal to 0, then the user hasn't put in any questions. So it's going to be dot value dot length. I believe that will have open and close parentheses. I'm not sure about that. I'll have to test it. If that answer is 0, length of question text box is 0. In other words, no question has been asked. That's a problem. All right. I want to. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the curly braces, and in between that, I'm going to take this, and I don't want to put the answer in there. I want to tell them, hey, I know that you haven't asked a question. Please ask a question first before I will answer. Whatever you want to say. I'm going to comment this out for the time being. So now what happens? Click the button and nothing. And maybe it's not with quote open and close. Nope. me figure out where my error is. My error is not in being able to type user Q right. All right, so just make sure that I had a W in there. And there is no open and close parentheses. Right, that is a variable. So if the length equals 0, there's nothing in that text box, and I want to tell them that's a problem. All right. So if I save and refresh and click, oh, please ask a question before I will answer. Very good. If there is something there, and we could go in and take a look and see what is it, and is there a question mark at the end and all that kind of stuff, we probably won't get there. But if that condition is not met, then I want to do this. All right. So if there's nothing in there, if the length of that text box is equal to 0, then I'm going to put in a question to that answer text box. Otherwise, I'm going to put in the random response. Let's see if that in fact works. So this is flipping a coin. Either this condition is met, in which case it's going to output this pre-arranged response, or it is not met, in which case I'm going to be delivering one of my random responses. And save and refresh. Oh, please ask a question. Okay, put in something, now ask a question, and now it's operating correctly. So that's the basics. There's a few other things that we're going to do. That'll be in the next video.